Good evening and welcome to episode 1 of News of the World, an idea dreamt up by myself, Patricia and Lee. Good evening. How are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Yeah, great to see you. Yeah, and thanks for coming on. We'll see whether this works. We'll see whether there's an interest for it and a passion for it. It's a break away from me from talking about true crime and football on this channel, and we'll get a chance to talk about anything and everything. And of course, anyone in the chat, if they want to chip in, please feel free. And we'll come with a subject matter each week. We'll all have an opinion on it. We might agree, we might disagree, who knows? And of course, we'll make the chat a relevant part of it and also bring people into the show as well. We might have guests on every week. Let's just see how it goes. As with everything on this planet, it's mad at times. There's lots of news stories going around. And I guess I'll start the ball rolling by a man who's never been off my TV screen all the way through the pandemic, but even more so now, usually looking as perplexed and as worried as that. And it is Boris Johnson. And I wanted to start with Partygate because I've got to be honest, I'm getting rather bored of it. As a resident of England, in the northeast of England, what I really want to know is the COVID rate going down? What on earth are we going to do with rising energy prices, which really are going to go through the roof over the next few months? And why are we concentrating on how many parties Boris has had at 10 Downing Street? That really doesn't bother me. And this tit for tat, and I watch it because I'm of a certain age now. I sit and watch Prime Minister's Question Time. I sit and watch these discussions in the Houses of Commons, and I've got to be honest, it's boring now. It's boring. It's in the hands of the Metropolitan Police, and I'm sure we'll come to them later as well, by the way. But it's, for me, it's time to move on. And the Conservatives really need to act a little bit quicker and get rid of this guy if they've got no faith in him. But at the moment, it's getting boring. I'm not sure what you feel, Patricia. Are you the same mindset as me? You're sitting in Ireland, so it's slightly different rules and regs over there. We've seen some massive developments in politics over there. Today. But what's your take on all of this and how this has all been managed at 10 Downing Street?
I mean, it's sad to say that we're getting bored of the constant scandals coming out of Downing Street. There seems to be no end to it. But at the same time, I think the pressure has to be kept on, Steve, because, if I asked Boris Johnson the time, I'd have to check my watch because you can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. So I don't think that Britain deserves a prime minister like that. And you mentioned the issues that in Northern Ireland today, the north of Ireland, whatever you want to call it. That's another Tory mess along with the DUP. They're a government that can't be trusted, and you have to blame the leader. And the very fact that he was part in some way to these parties, he knew they were taking place. I know people who couldn't even visit their dying relatives in hospital, and he was having parties in Downing Street. It's an absolute disgrace, and he should have went a long time ago. Now, we are seeing that more and more MPs are adding to this vote of no confidence. But, the Tory party should be shamed by him. And I have to be honest, I don't feel like a lot of them are. You have to feel sorry for the public. How can they, how can they expect things to get better when they've got a prime minister like that? So that's why I think Partygate's very important. And I did read on Twitter that it was a concerted cover-up, that Sue Gray's full report was delayed, and the Met Police are investigating. The Met Police guard Downing Street, they should have been investigating this a long time ago. But we will just have to wait and see. But yeah, I think the pressure should be kept on.
Okay, Lee, what about you?
It's quite close to home for me, mate. His kind of first bumble with these parties, I actually had both parents in hospital in a real bad way. So for me, it kind of touched on that nerve, because I was given my dad was diagnosed with cancer, so I went for a big operation. So naturally, he was kept in intensive care. 4 days later, my mum was in intensive care as well. So I had two parents in intensive care while all this was going on. So I was obviously at my wit's end, wanting to see them. I got called into the hospital on the Saturday night to say goodbye to my mum. So thank God that the NHS had some kind of compassion there, because if we'd have gone what he was saying, I would have never seen my mum again. You know, and I've had to live on memories from 3 or 4 days ago when she was on the floor. So for me, it struck a chord, and I think you're right, Patricia. It's got to be followed up, because if we're not following things like this up, and they're at the very helm of everything, then we may as well just pack up and go home.
I mean, Blue Moon Boy's asking a question there. What do you make of Boris's digs towards Keir about Jimmy Savile? I mean, look, ill-advised, I would say, bringing something like that up. He clearly believes that is something which, is going to dig him out of the hole that he's found himself in. But that's what happens across the dispatch box. Unfortunately, things do go out of hand. I think, for me, the biggest thing that didn't get picked up by the newspapers is, and you'll have to forgive us because I can't remember who it was, but somebody on the Labour side stood up and accused the Tories of has there been any drugs being taken at these parties, Patricia? And you're just thinking, well, why didn't the newspapers pick up on that? Because I think it was Boris then responded about something along the lines of, well, doesn't that happen at the Labour? You're just thinking, this is just ridiculous. This is my country. I want guidance as to what we can do. I want things to, you want the country to be looked after. You want to be looked after yourself as people. And all these idiots are arguing about in Parliament is things like that. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
It shows you how done it's become, really. Like, I mean, it's an absolute mess. And there's no end to it. I mean, you're waking up every day to new allegations. It's a mess. It's shameful.
I tell you what I did say the other day. I very rarely tune into kind of the politics side of stuff, but I saw grown men being kicked out of the House of Commons or the House of Lords, whatever you want to call it. And I'm thinking, these are grown men kicking other grown men out because they can't have a decent debate or get to a point of agreement. And I just think, like I said, we may as well pack up and go home, because if they can't sort it out, we haven't got the power to sort it out. So it's a mess.
It is. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, obviously, the Conservative Party are the ones who have to make the decision whether they have a new leader. And I guess with all these letters going in, it will happen at some point, but it'll happen when they're ready. And that's the problem. And then you end up in that situation where you have somebody in charge who hasn't been voted in. That's the problem. So Rishi Sunak, I think, is the paper's, the media's favourite for going in. And is he going to be any better than Boris Johnson? Again, really, what should happen is if he isn't doing a good job and he gets kicked out, maybe it should be changed so that there's an automatic election. But do you think, Patricia, that there's a good opposition? Because I don't. I mean, Keir Starmer is probably a step up from Corbyn. Corbyn brought all kinds of shame on the Labour Party with some of his anti-Semitic views and some of the other stuff that was in his background. However, Keir Starmer doesn't really seem to be an upgrade, and the polls would suggest that, should a general election be called tomorrow, then Keir Starmer's not really the man to take Labour forward either.
I mean, if you're asking me, are there more trustworthy politicians in the Labour Party than the Tories? The focus has been on the Tories, and there absolutely isn't. I haven't heard as much about the Labour Party. I mean, what do you do? It's a mess. It's a mess everywhere. In Northern Ireland at the moment, our executive has collapsed. We have no government because a party has decided to throw its toys out of the pram over the Northern Ireland Protocol. Again, a mess linked to the Tories, lies that were told, etc. I just don't know what state the government is in Britain, and I don't know what's better. I mean, what's your view, Lee? Do you think that that Labour has more potential to be a better government? I can't make my mind up.
No, I've got no confidence in him. I think that's the whole reason. I think that's the whole big debate here, isn't it? It's based of, do you stick with what you got? Better the devil you know. I don't think there's anyone out there at the moment that is really capable of doing it. So if you spin the wheel and we end up with another idiot, the one thing I will say about Boris is we all know, listen, he's had a tough gig, but that doesn't excuse him for what he did, because for me, with the Partygate stuff, it throws a whole world of doubt on actual, if we start talking about coronavirus and COVID, these are educated people. Now on lockdown 1, they're partying. when apparently the whole world was ending. I mean, we all, like me and Steve have spoke about, probably you, Patricia, as well, on lockdown 1, we all did exactly what they wanted, as in out for an hour's walk, do the shops, we did everything right. And they're still doing what they're doing. It throws confusion to me on us. Is Corona genuine? Was it really that bad? And there goes, obviously opens up a few more doors about Corona. But if these are educated people and they're in the garden with 100 people basically on the lash, again, no trust.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like, it's the polls that will decide. It will be the people voting that will decide. I mean, yeah, your point there, Lee, they're educated people. They treat everybody else as if they're not as intelligent. I mean, they treat the public like they're stupid, and that angers me. It angers me to hear people crying when, they didn't see their relatives for months, whether that was over COVID, being in the hospital, dying from COVID, cancer, and then to sit there and try to mislead the public even more. It's got to the stage, and I think that's the most dangerous type of liar, where they lie, and they lie that much that you actually start going to yourself, is this just me? Maybe they are telling the truth. And it's frightening. It's just frightening that there is a government like that in the UK.
Good point from John from QDAC. He says hundreds of MPs arguing and bickering every day over pathetic issues. Shut up, look at the real problems and fix them for the benefit of the country. And yeah, that's all we want, isn't it? That's all we want, a good government. And it's beyond a joke, really, at times with Boris. He laughed and joked his way through being London mayor, it has to be said, and made so many mistakes, faux pas, told quite a few untruths, it has to be said, and still got voted in for a second term. And then we all voted him in this country. He was voted in with a good majority as prime minister. So I guess we get what we want. Just out of the blue here, America had a celebrity president. So, Patricia, do you think we'll ever see one of them in the UK? Do you think at 10 Downing Street we might see Jeremy Kyle or Piers Morgan or Simon Cowell walking out of 10 Downing Street?
I don't know. Like, I kind of fancy Alan Sugar as maybe prime minister. I think he would make a good one.
Yeah.
You know what? I kind of hope not. I don't know. I don't particularly like Trump. I mean, he did do good things for America. That's shown, but I'm not a fan. I don't know. Like, I mean, anybody better than Boris Johnson? I mean,
what about Katie Hopkins?
Oh no, sorry, no, definitely not. Definitely not.
Katie Price.
Okay. Listen, well, there must be something about it because she keeps evading jail. I mean, how many times you want to get caught crashing your car, drunk, drugged up, whatever else, and then escape? She's never spent one day in jail. How?
Yeah. Look, I mean, this is what we do. We need all of the politicians that sit in the cabinet, in the House of Commons, go and live for a week in the most impoverished areas in the UK and come back and change things, because things will change then. Because if they had to live the life that some people are living in the UK, going to food banks, not being able to afford food bills, watch how quick things change then. That's what should be done.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay. Yeah, go on if you've got another point, Ellie.
No, it was just basically that cost of living thing that, I got sent something on Facebook the other day, and like you said, if they actually went and lived, so for someone on minimum wage in England, they would come out pretty much with 1,278 quid a month, yeah? Now, they've kind of broke it down with rent, council tax, electricity. It pretty much leaves a person on the breadline, let's say they've got a kid or whatever, it leaves them with £58 spare a week. Now, what happens if they need a new tyre on the car, or they need a new front door, or it just, piles into that. Go live a week doing that and see how you get on.
It's true. I mean, look, we're all going to struggle. Trying to hit the. It's hitting everybody. It's hitting everybody across the country and beyond. And Rishi Sunak didn't really alleviate the problem today with what he said. I mean, I think anybody between council tax bands A and D will get £150 rebate. That's not really going to help when energy bills are going up by such a big amount, is it, Lee?
No, exactly not, mate. It's just token gestures all the time, isn't it? Without actually tackling the real problems.
Are we paying for COVID here, Patricia, do you think? Because, I mean, there's been such a hemorrhaging of money from the Chancellor's office, I guess. Rishi Sunak was the hero of lockdown. We had furlough, we had all of these grants given out to businesses, etc. They're now trying to claw back because this was wide open to being abused, this system. You had people with dormant companies suddenly claiming their 50 grand grants. They're now having to search and scrabble around for these people and find out where all this money's gone. But I don't know, is this always going to happen with the fact that the country was locked down for the best part of 18 months?
I think they would like you to think that it's because of COVID. I don't, if you mean to tell me the government has never in the past had talks about the possibility of a pandemic, of course they have. They should have been prepared for this. We shouldn't have to, pay for their faults. So no, I don't buy the COVID thing. It's because of COVID and we've paid this and furlough and absolutely not.
Yeah, okay. Let's move on to the next topic of conversation. And it's the one that you suggested, Patricia. And I guess in times of need, we all feel that, we might need to trust in the emergency services. And the police, of course, are one of our emergency services. And in London, they are served by the Metropolitan Police, who are governed by Cressida Dick. Now, this story that you suggested that we talk about tonight really is one which has horrified and disgusted anybody who has heard it. And I've got a feeling that this has been a bit of a dead cat thrown to the media by this man, who, of course, is constantly under pressure. But it was all about these text messages on WhatsApp. Reading that kind of thing in a WhatsApp group, getting a woman into bed is like spreading butter. It can be done with a bit of effort using a credit card, but it's quicker and easier just to use a knife. F knows what she's on about. I just want to on her, sent by an officer in reference to another police officer's girlfriend. Mate, my missus is driving me mad. Come and a baby into her and it might shut her up, bro. That's one of a whole host of messages which we have seen in the media this week. What was your initial thoughts on that, Patricia?
I can't believe that police officers would write that. I mean, it's frightening to think that when you're in a situation where you need help, maybe you're a vulnerable female, you're having officers who are openly talking about that in WhatsApp groups to each other, joking about each other's girlfriends. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know any men like that. So it frightens me that there's police officers, by the way, which one of them, which has been promoted to sergeant, I think I read in the paper today. I mean, what do you say? Why aren't they dealing with this culture? We're hearing about this. These text messages were sent years ago. We're only reading about it now. 9 out of the 14 officers are still in the police force. Why? I mean, Sarah Everyard should have been, the wake-up call that they needed, that something needs to be done. And I'd just like to know how they're going to tackle this. I mean, do these officers get classes on how not to be misogynistic and how not to make rape jokes about each other's girlfriends? I mean, how do you deal with that? It's frightening.
Well, I think the point there, Patricia, is one of them policemen could be, which twins, and obviously what we'll speak about in a bit, one of them policemen could have actually been going to see the girlfriend of Mason Greenwood, and you've got that kind of person turning up to deal with that event. And like you've just pointed out there, I mean, what, again, do you put any trust in that?
You can't, can you?
No.
You can't. You genuinely can't. I mean, it's only a matter of months since Wayne Couzens, of course, was jailed for the whole, Sarah Everard case, and then we had the protests, and then women being manhandled and arrested by the Met Police, and it just seems to be one thing after another. And Cressida Dick, of course, is the head of all of this. She had a meeting, of course, with the London mayor. She was essentially, I don't know what the term it was that was used by the London mayor, but it was almost, I thought she'd been, told to resign, but of course she hasn't. Should she resign, Patricia?
I think Priti Patel said today that there needs to be a change, and I would agree, because how long has Cressida Dick been there? I mean, it's been years, and this happened under her watch. It's not working. Something else needs to happen. Somebody else needs to step in, and I think she should do the honourable thing and step down, because she's not going to be sacked, I don't think.
No, she won't. There's been so much negativity over the years towards her. She's another Teflon. She just seems to evade it and carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? That's the problem. People just seem to survive. These people who run, the police, run government, whatever. It just seems as if they can get away with everything. From our perspective, we are the ones who suffer. If it was us doing something illegal, you guarantee if we got caught, we would have to resign or lose our job or whatever. And that's the big issue here, isn't it? It just seems to be one room for them and another room for them.
Absolutely. If any of us had sent those types of text messages in work, I mean, that would have been the end. We would have been sacked. No looking back.
Absolutely.
Your career would have ended.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Anyone else in the chat's got any points to make about that, then please feel free to chip in, and we'll push your points forward. I want to talk about something a bit closer to home for me, and it's YouTube. The YouTube wars, Lee. I just want to get your focus just a little bit on that, because you've been on a lot of these podcasts over the last couple of months, and you've probably sat and watched, like I have, some of the fallout. Do you think all of that's genuine, the fallout that goes on YouTube? And do you think there should be some kind of form that you need to fill in to be a YouTuber? Because certainly feels to me as if some people on YouTube are going too far now. Today, sadly, I lost a good friend of mine, John from Jab, who sponsored the channel, since its conception. And John's a top bloke. He's passed away at the age of 40 after suffering an asthma attack yesterday. And there's some horrendous videos being put up in the last 48 hours about John. All completely true, all lies, all misleading. And on the day that he's passed away, somebody even insinuating that he's been murdered. And I mean, this is something that the family could see, the family could read. Does there need to be a bit more of a governance on YouTube, do you think, Lee?
Absolutely, mate. We've got to the point now where it's pretty much like a lunatic asylum. And obviously it ramps up of an evening when people have had a couple of beers or whatever they may do, a smoke, and they seem to think they can come on. I've literally had one today. If I could get it up on my phone, I'll show you. Someone offering to come round to my house. And I think, what the hell? What are you on about? But yet, you tackle these people, and 9 times out of 10, they'll shut up or retract it. But it's so much negativity, and it does affect people. I mean, we know Paul fighting trolls. I read some of the comments that he gets, mate, and it's beyond sick. Going on, what the police officers were talking about, that's fairly mundane to what he gets. So yeah, I think there's got to be some kind of online passport or some accountability, because, like, again, this is affecting people's mental health seriously.
It is, yeah. I mean, Patricia, do you have much time to spend? We all work quite hard, but I mean, I've got to be honest, over the last 6 months especially, I've started tuning into certain channels and watching certain programs, and some of it, I've got to be honest, is quite addictive. Now, that's probably because the television is so poor. There's so little to watch, but I end up engrossed in something like Karma Corner, which is my kind of sense of humor. I do laugh at it. Paul from Fighting Trolls that Lee's just mentioned is a really good channel. You get hooked by watching him just go on. I think it's the fact that he sometimes just completely doesn't pay attention to the viewers and starts eating some of his tea. And but you know what? Yeah, exactly. It's just, but you know, I think it's personalities that make YouTube, and it's the crack. We've all got different ways of doing it. But I mean, have you watched any of this fallout, Patricia, and how people are going on?
No, I haven't. I can only really relate to Twitter, and probably that's the platform I'm on most. And you know, some of the stuff that's posted on there, you're like, what on earth? I mean, I've been accused of all sorts. I think somebody, at one stage, accused me of spraying my own graffiti on walls that we talked about in the past, Steve. You really see myself running around and spraying walls with my name on it. But anyway, it's just, I mean, the online safety bill, there's a draft bill that's going through Westminster at the moment. I feel it's a bit too much. I think the onus is to fine social media giants. So, you know, if YouTube doesn't remove harmful comments or harmful content, as they put it, they'll get hit with a massive fine. Twitter will get hit. And I think that could lead to the over removal of comments just for fear of being fined. So it could, impact on free speech. But at the same time, I mean, how hard is it to, anybody who's set up an account on YouTube or wherever, okay, right, you have 2 weeks to send over a form of ID. If, this is only going to be used if you cross a criminal threshold or, you harass somebody or whatever, and it's on file. If you don't do that within 2 weeks, then, we'll delete your account. And from then on, anybody setting up new accounts, they can use a form of ID. And I think that will regulate it better, and it'll make people think before they post. Because I have suffered massive anxiety from social media comments, because I think you can't control it, and people can be really nasty, but at the same time, people can be really, really nice. And, you could get 100 lovely comments and people being supportive, but it'll always be that one bad one that'll stick out. And it does. People are vulnerable. And a lot of vulnerable people don't have friends. They don't socialize, and they go on social media for that social aspect, and they should be protected.
I think you're right. And I've got to be honest, in the early days, I would try to respond to people, but it's a waste of time. It really is. And as your followers go up and you get more people on, and it's great. It's good to get followers, especially if you're doing promotions and stuff like I am, or you're selling books, or you're promoting a podcast or whatever. However, you are so right. You can end up in that position where you could have 100 people saying, keep on doing well, keep doing the great work, loving the content. And you just see that one person that calls you a bald Tory nonce, which is, one of the trolls' favorite things for saying, for saying to me. As time goes on, you just grow used to it. You just, you block and you move on. And that tends to be what the social media people will say to you, block and move on. But unfortunately, the social media companies are very slow to react in getting these things changed. And I had one yesterday. Holly, who comes on our show, she does a Sunday show with me and talks about Newcastle United. She's coming to 17 now, and I'm constantly, getting messages on Twitter, for example, saying you're grooming Holly, or you're doing this, or you're doing that, and it's awful. It's awful for me. It's awful for her. It's awful for her dad, who's on Twitter, who sees all of that. These people are clearly just young, faceless people on Twitter who just want to get some kind of reaction. And I reported those tweets yesterday, and I'm pleased to say that they upheld my complaint. But the kid's still there. He hasn't been blocked. He hasn't been banned. He probably had 10 minutes of 10 minutes of not being on the platform, and then he'll be back again, giving more abuse. Lee, you got it yourself, mate, and we'll get it on this channel, we'll get it on this show, because all three of us have had trolls. We'll get our own trolls. We've got good admin on this channel, and everybody, everyone will be protected. But Lee, you get it yourself, and there isn't a way around it until they start basically, take an ID. And if there's a strike against you on one platform on an IP address, it should be one. I would say maybe 3 strikes and you're out, because maybe somebody can make a mistake. But if you're a constant offender, you should be out, shouldn't you, Lee? I think.
Absolutely, mate, absolutely. Also, as well, just picking up on what you said there, obviously with people calling you names like that, as an older man or as a person, it kind of withdraws you from interacting with people because you think, well, actually, I don't want this heat. You know, maybe it would stop you maybe getting another young person on your show. So again, it's a societal thing, obviously, but we need to nip it in the bud, because otherwise we're going to end up becoming recluses because nobody will dare look at the phones for fear of abuse.
Yeah, it's a good point by Paul Taylor. Cookie says, if you want free speech, talk to yourself in the mirror in your soundproof room in your super secret building inside a Faraday cage. Yeah, but that's how farcical it is. You can't say anything, you can't do anything. And unfortunately, it's my favourite saying, you'll get sick of hearing us say it on here, but you put your head above the parapet, you're there to be shot at. We're all in the public eye for various reasons. And if you put your head above the parapet, then, you know, it's there to be shot at, sadly. And you're never not gonna have an easy ride. And I've always said it's far better people talking about you than not talking about you at all, if you're in that position where you want to be talked about, if you've got something to sell, promote, or whatever, you know. So yeah, I just think more regulation. And like you say, Patricia, ID is the way forward. I mean, I can't remember, but I think it might be Instagram or Twitter, but you do have to send like proof it's you. But you know, maybe it's just, I don't know. I've often said maybe you're having your real name, but then sometimes it's companies that want to promote on Twitter, so that's impossible. But just having one person tied to the account, somebody who is responsible for that account. So if there is somebody who has a company where 3 or 4 people have access and somebody says, you know, something racist or homophobic or whatever, then, you know, that person who is responsible for that account is the person who I'm afraid has to take the rap for it, Patricia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can be anonymous if you want. You don't have to use your real name, but as long as there's something to link, you know, prove who is behind the account. And if they cross that criminal threshold, they can be held to account. I mean, I've had 2 rape threats to my children on there. I mean, it already breaks laws, and, you know, still nothing's done. In fact, Facebook asked me what I had done to stop this person sending me a message. And you're like, what? How am I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm a journalist. I have to take unsolicited messages from people. So big attitude change is needed. And yeah, big tech need a wake-up call because they've allowed this to happen.
Yeah, Lee, just coming back to the YouTube stuff. I mean, 3D Fight Club, something which I've spoken about on this show before. I've supported it. Obviously, John from Jab, God bless him, was involved, and he was part of 3D Fight Club. It's been interesting, hasn't it? You've been on Fighting Trolls account. You've been on there. He was probably one of the few who came out with any credit at that press conference. But what have you made of all of that? I mean, do you think that whole thing between Ben and Ditchy and all that, did that seem contrived, and was it a setup, or do you think that was just all literally just emotions coming out on the day?
I think it's emotion. I mean, if you look at the characters you're dealing with there, they're obviously flammable lads, shall we say. And then to put them all in a hypercharged room like that, I don't think it was staged, pal, I'll be honest with you. I think it was genuine naughtiness going on. And like you say, Paul come out of it probably looking the best. Fair play to him. But Liam was on Paul's channel last night, and he pretty much was apologetic. He said, listen, I was out of order. It was a little bit underhand what they did, wasn't it? But obviously that fight's not going to go ahead now, but I don't know, mate. It's not dead in the water, I don't think. I think that might just be another little twist.
I mean, yeah, I've seen all the interviews come out over the last couple of days as well, and seen people saying sorry, and then people taking the apologies back, etc. But look, any publicity is good publicity when you've got a fight on, and you know, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. Do you ever fancy getting in the ring, Lee?
Absolutely not, mate. This face is not for fighting.
Patricia, ever fancy getting in the boxing ring?
God, I would just be leathered in the ring. I can't even jog, Steve, like never mind box.
Okay, Lee, what have you brought to the table today?
Right, we want to talk, I want to speak, mate, we were talking about cost of living, yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, this is local to me, and it was actually on a local channel. And it was basically a lad going around with the camera highlighting this kind of stuff. There's a hotel in Blackpool called the Metropole. I don't know if you're aware of it. One of the biggest in Blackpool. Roughly about 300 rooms in it. and it's actually being used as one of these illegal immigrant kind of holding hotels, yeah? So I kind of sat there and I thought, well, hang on a minute, what kind of cost to us is this? Let's say it's, for instance, it's 50 quid a room, yeah? Because these people, it's full, by the way, these people are not going to be running the hotel. They're going to have kitchen staff there, hotel staff, security staff. There's 300 rooms, yeah, at 50 quid a room. Per night, that's £15,000. £15,000 a night. Do you know what I mean? And then for a month, you're looking at nigh on £500,000 And let's say, for instance, you have 4 security staff and 25 grand, that's another 100 grand. And if this is one hotel in Blackpool, how many of these hotels around the UK at the moment? So if that's £500,000, maybe all these energy prices and cost of living and, you know, not being able to heat your home, maybe we should look at maybe addressing this kind of situation. All because Boris can't say no to France.
I mean, it's a situation I've watched for a long time, and obviously Brexit, that bloody Brexit, was based on this. Nigel Farage riding into town on his silver horse, and you know, do this and vote for this and vote for that. That guy is interested in one thing and one thing only, and that's himself, right? And the British public who voted for Brexit were conned by Nigel Farage and his accomplices. And ultimately, that's the situation we found ourselves in. Now we're out of the European Union. I voted to stay in. I didn't vote to leave because I just felt it was a sham. There was no concrete evidence that anything was going to happen. And to turn around and say Brexit was going to solve the problem of immigration was a downright lie. Absolute balderdash, as Boris would probably say. And ultimately, you know, he revels in it. He stands in the dispatch box, reveling in the fact we got Brexit through. You wanted to stay in. Now, I'm not saying, by the way, that there was anything great about being in Europe. Because ultimately there was daft things happening. Like, you know, they were in control of everything. You know, every single thing they were in control of. And this, you know, they said jump. We had to say how high. You know, Germany were basically being run by Germany without being taken over by Germany. And that's the way it felt. But, you know, is everything on the other side of the fence rosy? Of course it's not. It's causing a major problem now with us in Ireland, which I'm sure, you know, I see you nodding already, Patricia. It's a mess. The country's a mess. We've got Scotland looking to move away. Nicola Sturgeon won't rest until she completely disassociates herself with anything over here. And it's just an absolute nightmare. So I think you're right, but that's just another thing which needs sorting out. And this government won't sort it out. This government won't sort it out, but the opposition couldn't sort it out anyway. Like, could they? They couldn't sort it out either. It's an absolute mess. I mean, don't expect you to answer this. Did you vote for Brexit or not?
No.
I lived in Dublin at the time, so I know I didn't.
No, you didn't.
I couldn't vote because I lived in Dublin. So,
yeah.
But I mean, I would have voted to remain. Absolutely, I would have voted to remain. Look at the mess that it's caused where I live. It's a shambles. But then again, other people say that it's actually brought the north and south of Ireland closer together. So, there's some people that want a united Ireland, or there's some people that want a new Ireland. Obviously, there's people in Northern Ireland who want to remain part of the UK. But I mean, the bottom line is it's a mess. So
it is.
The interesting thing is as well, just on the kind of illegal immigrant side of things, there's obviously a humanitarian side that obviously we have to adhere to, and even as good people, we will do our bit. But I just think, why are we not showing any opposition to maybe? I mean, we're only a small island. Both our places where we live are small islands. What we're going to do is keep taking people for the rest of our lives. And another thing, just while we're on the matter, the RNLI before Christmas were asking for donations off the public. What's that to do? Just go and pick people off the South Coast. Right? We're actually paying for them to be picked up off the South Coast, then housed at £500,000 a month. I mean, come on.
But what do you do, Lee? What do you do, Lee? Do you allow them to die in the channel? And you mean
no.
What do you do? What do you do? And I think, I mean, I know I knew we were going to talk about this, so I did a wee bit of research, and I was trying to figure out, because in Ireland, like you say, very similar to what the Blackpool Hotel that you mentioned, in Ireland, there is actually not immigrants, families of 4 and 5 who have been in hotels for months. There's a housing crisis. The rents are ridiculous, especially in Dublin. They've been living in hotels, and the government are paying it. I know a hotel, and I'll not name it, that even when they could reopen after the COVID, when restrictions were relaxed, didn't, because they were fully booked out with families who couldn't get in social housing. It's an absolute mess. And once again, it's the government. I mean, what are they doing? But coming at it from a humane perspective, and I know people will say, well, we don't know who, it is coming into the country, but that's up to the government to regulate. But some of the comments that I have seen online have been very xenophobic and racist. And I mean, and actually the UK is at the bottom of intake of immigrants over the last, I think the top one's Germany, then it's France, Spain and Greece, and I think UK is down at the bottom.
I mean, you've got to take in immigrants, because, imagine if you flip the coin, imagine if you were in one of those boats and you were wanting somewhere, it would be awful if you got turned back. The problem we've got is it's with France and the UK just can't agree on this at all. France aren't, we've seen the footage on the news. The police, they're monitoring the borders, which means there's a police car there with about 3 coppers in, all smoking French bloody cigarettes, staring out to the sea. There's people. There's all these immigrants are running behind them, running into the sea, into the boats. I mean, it's farcical. It's like a comedy film, and they're not bothered. They aren't bothered about stopping them, and again, it's the tip of the iceberg. If they don't go where the police car is, one police car, by the way, they go 10 miles up the coast, which is where these boats are. These boats are laid on by the people that have took the money off these people, and it's these. They should be cracking down on the criminal organisations in France that are running the operations to sell, this hope of freedom to these people. That's what they should be doing. But again, that's a French problem. We can't interfere. It's in France, and that's it. There's nothing we can do. And as for immigrants coming in, I think the only thing that ever shocked me was I would have to check up on the research on this, but it could only when did we withdraw from Afghanistan? Was it must have been October? Was it?
September, I think it was around that. Yeah.
Okay,
September, October,
so let's say in the autumn, just so I don't have to be pulled on the date. But when we withdrew from Afghanistan, and they were trying to get people out of the country, we were still in a form of lockdown in the UK, and I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but 20,000 seems to ring a bell, and we took in 20,000 immigrants as part of our quota of immigrants from that country. Now, I've got no problem with that. Again, that is helping people. But that was at the same time that people had to, when they came back from a foreign country into the UK, they had to basically have tests. They had to go to a hotel. They had to stay in a hotel. So really, we let 20,000 people in from Afghanistan. I mean, I don't know what the COVID variant was in Afghanistan. I don't know what the COVID levels were in Afghanistan. But that was my first thought. Hold on a minute. Yeah. How is it okay for 20,000 complete strangers to come into this country without getting COVID? I mean, were they getting COVID checked? Were they put in? That was my biggest concern. It wasn't that we were bringing immigrants in. Another 20,000 in who were in desperation. Feel free to come in. But again, it makes a farce of the whole Brexit thing, because the whole Brexit thing is, we're going to stamp out immigrations. There'll be no more of these people coming into our country. And it's an absolute, we're just being sold a lie. And I bet you a lot of the people out there who voted Brexit feel absolutely bloody stupid. They feel conned. They feel let down. And again, it's, Boris is culpable for that, along with Farage and all the other idiots who ran around the UK on a bus promoting it.
It's just hypocrisies again, mate. Like what you say there. I remember actually that time. So I was thinking, we're letting all these people in and during a pandemic, but yet we're also saying that our health services are at breaking point and ready to crumble. So there's so many discrepancies and hypocrisies all the time, and it leaves the normal people on the street, like you said, Patricia, before. You're laid in bed at night and you're thinking, I just don't know who to believe anymore. I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Go to some of the comments. I bet Steve votes Labour. Bobby, I don't vote Labour. I have voted Labour in the past. I vote Labour in the local elections because the local council actually do well. The Labour council are very good where I live. In the general election, I voted Liberal in the last two general elections because I don't like to waste my vote. I can't vote Tory because I can't stand Boris. I can't vote Labour because they've had no decent leader for the last few years now. So for me, I can't vote for either of the major parties. I vote Liberals so I don't lose my vote. But yeah, I do vote Labour in the local election, and that is because the councillor, we know the councillor. We never get let down. There's regular updates. When they say they're going to do something, they do it. If there's no money, they tell you there's no money, and they tell you why there's no money. And that's what councillors really should do, and that's why you vote for them. John says, can't help thinking that all this financial pressure on the average Joe is to eventually say the answer is to rejoin the EU as a saviour. Paul says, you shouldn't have voted full stop, Steve. Sorry, but if you play their game of Monopoly, you will lose. Steve says that you're a genuinely sound bloke, Lee, with an affinity for Dublin. So there you go. Good stuff. Nice to get a bit of it's nice to get a bit of praise, isn't it, on our first night on here. Now I am going to bring on our guest who I mentioned earlier. I wasn't sure whether I would bring him on, and it's John Watt. Good evening, John.
How you doing, Steve? All right?
I'm good to see you, mate. Thanks for popping on, mate. And you reached out on me on Instagram last week, mate, and you've just had a bad reaction to the vaccine, mate. Tell us about it.
I want to just say, first of all, I wasn't an anti-vaxxer or anything like that. I got my first two vaccines back last February, March, and then I got the booster jag on November 2021. Basically, do you want the long version or do you want the short version? Because so basically, I had the vaccine. After I had the booster, I didn't feel too good after 2-3 days. I felt like my heart was elevated, especially on standing. So when I was standing up, my heart rate would go from 60 to 120 beats per minute. Myself and my partner went and played mini golf about 3 days after having the booster. When I was playing mini golf, my heart was just, because I wear a Samsung watch, and it tells you what your heart rate is like, and my heart rate was just beats per minute, and my resting heart rate is usually 60 beats per minute. And when I was playing mini golf, I said to her 3 times, I says, I feel like I'm going to pass out. I said, I feel like I'm going to physically pass out. So eventually that passed, and I just kind of let it chill out a bit. And then about a week later, I decided I'm going to go to the gym with my mate Ian, who you know, Steve. So I went to the gym with my mate Ian, and before I was even doing anything, my heart rate was just through the roof, and I just felt terrible. And as things went on, I ended up my colour from my face just went away. My mate said to me, "You okay?" And I was like, "No." I says, "I don't know what's going on, but this doesn't. I'm not feeling good at all." After that, I ended up having to phone an ambulance, and I went, got an ambulance, sent me away, and when I got to A&E, we just thought it was a blood pressure medication issue, because my blood pressure, at this time I was kind of playing about with blood pressure medications, because I was using a blood pressure medication that wasn't agreeing with me. So the doctors just thought I started a new medication, so they said, "Oh, it must be the blood pressure medication you're on." And I was kind of like, "Right, okay, we'll play about with blood pressure medications." So I tried about 4 or 5 different blood pressure medications. Every day I was feeling nauseous, sick, couldn't stand up, heart was elevated. Now, I've already had a heart attack at the age of 34. So I've already got a heart condition. And yeah, so it's very hard for me to talk. I get like brain fog and stuff just now. So this is quite hard for me to talk right now. So basically, as the weeks went on, I was in and out of A&E constantly. I was saying to them, I feel like I'm going to pass out. I couldn't stand. It's got to the stage now I use a walking stick to get about. And also, I need to sit down in a shower. I've got no mobility now. I need a wheelchair if I'm out in the streets. I've not had a haircut in about 8 weeks. And as every day went on, it got worse and worse. And I would wake up in the morning, I would retch every day. I would be sick. I was nauseous every day. I still do get nauseous. And yeah, I was just constantly in and out of hospital. Heart palpitations. A couple of times I would be doing the simplest of things. I've passed out twice with this when standing. And I lost 15 kilos in weight in the space of 6 weeks. And it's just been absolutely horrendous. I had to go private. NHS, I mean, the NHS, I mean, they saved my life when I had my heart attack. But when you go to A&E now, you know, if you don't find anything acute with you, wrong or life threatening, then they dismiss you. They say that you're fine. And I think that one of the last time I was in A&E with one of the doctors, I turned around to her and I said, I've lost 15 kilos in weight in 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. I said, I've got zero appetite. I can't stand up. I was like, what the fuck's going on? Sorry to swear, but and then she turned around and said, well, what age are you and what's your height? And I'm like, I'm 6'3". And she'd done a BMI check. And she says, well, your BMI says you're actually still overweight. And I was like, are you kidding me on? Like, I said, I've been bedridden. I've been bedridden for like 6 weeks at this point. And I says, and I've lost weight. I says, I've never lost weight that fast. And as times went on, I ended up having to pay private. I ended up paying private, and I ended up having to get gastro. I had to get CT scans. I was getting cortisol checks and blood checks. It's been the worst 2.5, nearly 3 months of my life. Suicide has came across my mind, if I'm being completely and utterly honest with you. Doctors don't know what to do. Nobody knows what to do, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm on a medication called Devlin, which basically controls my heart rate. So when I stand up, my heart rate, like I say, if I'm lying down just now, my heart rate will be 60 beats per minute, 65 beats per minute. When I start to sit up, my heart rate will go about 75. And then when I stand up, my heart rate goes to 125 to 130 beats per minute. Now, people are wondering why these footballers are dropping dead. There's your answer. The heart rate's already elevated, and then they're running about a football pitch, and the heart rate's through the roof. You know.
And John, can I ask, when you're going to the hospital and you're saying this, I believe this is vaccine related, what are they saying to you?
I never said anything about it being vaccine related because I was never one of the people that wanted to fall under that kind of vaccine conspiracy or whatever. It wasn't until about 3 weeks ago I went to I paid privately for a cardiologist, and he looked at my heart rate and stuff, and he went like, "Have you heard of a condition called POTS?" And I was like, "No," and I can't describe it, but if you look up, it's called something. I can't remember, but it's a condition called POTS, POTS. And he says what's happening is your blood circulation is not getting around the body quick enough, and that's why when I stand up, my balance is, I'm so off balance, it's ridiculous. If you're sitting up for too long, you black out. But when you say about the vaccine, when we went through the timeline, the cardiologist asked me, he says, "When did you get your vaccine?" I went November 14th. And he said, "When did this all occur?" And I said, "Well, I don't know." This is roughly about November. And then I told a friend, now he is an anti-vaxxer, there's no two ways about it. He doesn't believe all that. And he sent me a Joe Rogan podcast with a doctor, right? And they sent me a clip. And this doctor basically described what I was getting. You get POTS and hypertension of high blood pressure. And I was just like, "Nah, this can't be. And I asked the cardiologist, I said, "Do you think this could be vaccine related?" And he said, "Well, put it like, you wouldn't be the first and it won't be the last that I'll see." And it's just like, you've no idea. I've spent 2.5 months in my bed. And this is the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life. And I've argued with my GP. I've been back and forth with my GP so many times. I've told them to fuck off so many times because they kept feeding me pills. And every pill they were giving me, my body wasn't tolerating anything. And I'm even talking about a paracetamol. What this from watching podcast, you kind of go down a rabbit hole when you kind of go, is this vaccine related? And basically, POTS is an autoimmune disorder, and the vaccines went in, attacked my autoimmune system, and when I'm sitting up, my heart it's not in sync anymore, and my blood's trying to circulate, and it's the worst thing I'm experiencing right now.
Did you have any underlying health conditions, John, before this?
Well, the only thing I had before, I had a heart attack in the year 2020. That was hereditary. It runs in my family. I had a narrowed artery, and I was in the gym working out, and what do you call it? I had a heart attack, and I had a stent fitted in 2020. I started getting back in my feet, and I started getting back to the gym and playing golf. I started getting, active again in 2021. And I feel honestly, I feel like I've had my heart attack again. If I'm being completely honest, I feel I went back to day one, and I'm lying in my bed now. And the simplest, the only thing I do in a day to day, and the honest truth is, I get up and I get a shower, and then I come back to my bed and I need to lie down and watch stuff in bed, and then I'll get a shower at night. And I'm not even kidding. There's my walking stick. I don't know if you can see it. And
I think it's awful the way you've been left. I mean, you just don't know what's wrong, and no one can tell you. I think it's awful, and mentally, it's
Yeah, I've told the GP. I spoke to my GP the other day, and I'm trying to tell them, you need to be aware of it. Nobody heard of this. I'm getting A&E, and I'm like, I've got a condition called POTS from the vaccine, and they're like, I've never heard of this. And I says, believe you me, I says, if they're rolling out these vaccines every 3 months now, you're going to have to get used to it, because you're going to get more and more people. And there's a boy who's in America, and he's BMX, and he's doing a big campaign just now in Washington. And I messaged him on Instagram, and he got back to me. And he says the first 2 to 3 months is the worst. And he says once you get past that 2 to 3 months, you'll start to hopefully gain control of your life again. And
There is John, there's a website. I don't know if you're aware of it, mate. A website called the Yellow Card.
Yeah. My partners went on it, but all that yellow card is I'm the guinea pig.
Well, exactly that, but it's people's
what the Pfizer's
true
doing to
account.
me.
Yeah, it's people's, because obviously the government they don't want you to know all the real, like your story. They will handpick and cherry pick success stories or whatever they believe. But obviously the yellow card and things like that, and basically making people aware of real life issues like yours.
Yeah. Like I say,
you're hearing lots of different things happening. I mean, never a weekend goes past now, and Lee, you'll be able to back me up on this when you're sitting watching Soccer Saturday and you're hearing about somebody, a game being, stopped for 20 minutes for somebody passing out or somebody being resuscitated in the crowd at games. And, that never, ever happened. It never happened. The first one was at Newcastle United. And then subsequently over the last couple of months, it has to be said, since the booster jab rollout, this is when we've heard of them. And it can't be a coincidence that this is just all happening now. I don't know.
The thing is, Steve, with this POTS, it can be recognised so early. It's so simple. It's the simplest thing to discover. All they need to do is they take someone's blood pressure and heart rate lying down, then sit them up, and then stand. And if their heart rate goes over 30 to 40 beats per minute, there's an issue. It's a condition called POTS, and it's so easily identified. And nobody, every time I was in A&E, I was lying down in a bed, and they would see me. You're waiting in A&E. I've been in A&E about 5 to 6 times. Easily, no, I'd say easily 10 to 15 times. I was doing everything. I was getting acupuncture. I was trying to find an answer to what's going on, because I was retching every day. I thought I had a gastro problem.
Sean, at any point, did they give you midazolam?
What's that? Sorry.
Did they give you midazolam at any point?
I don't know, mate. I don't think so. No, but like I say, they were doing these tests on me when I was lying down. So when I was lying down, they were taking my blood pressure. Blood pressure was fine. I said, all right, let me stand up and walk and wait till you see my fatigueness and my weakness. I says, I'll pass out in 2 minutes. And I says, take my blood pressure once I've done a little bit of movement and take my heart rate. They wouldn't do it. I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm in and out, and they were blaming my mental health, which was fucking frustrating the life out of me. You've no idea. To use my mental health's been affected by this, not me being mentally. My mental health's been affected because I've been bedridden for nearly 3 months.
Of course.
And I've been retching I've been thrown up every day and retching and losing weight. And I had one of the first times I think it was the third time I was staying at my mum's, and I ended up having like a seizure at night. I woke up and I was just shaking, and they ended up rolling me into A&E, done blood tests, everything was fine. Every time they do a blood test, everything's come back absolutely fine. And honestly, like, to do this just now, I get brain fog. It's hard for me to concentrate on the simplest of things. My mates are, you'll be loving life because you were sitting in your bed playing FIFA all day. I'm like, mate, I don't even have the energy to have the thought to play it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I don't have the energy to use the controls, and it's so hard to do the simplest of tasks. And honestly, I wish I could get this message out to so many people. I'm not sitting saying don't get the vaccine, but what I'm saying to people is, and especially GPs and doctors, is be fucking aware that if somebody's coming into you and they're telling you these symptoms, if you look up POTS and the Pfizer, it's common as fuck. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I found this, and I mean, obviously, there just seems to be a cry for help on this. There's no cure. Lifestyle changes are often attempted before medication. There are no FDA-approved medications for POTS. There's a lot of trial and error with meds that increase blood pressure, decrease heart rate, decrease peripheral vasoconstriction, decrease sympathetic tone. Current treatments are not very effective. We need more research to identify the underlying causes of POTS, and that is something that's quite prevalent. You can find that on the internet. Search it, find it, and there isn't a cure.
Now, the only thing I would say that's kind of helped me in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I would say, is I went and get bloods taken. A lot of bloods taken. I was getting all sorts of bloods taken for my cortisone level. So my cortisone levels was coming back low. My fluoride, which is just basically a supplement, I believe, so it can be taken by a vitamin. My folate, is it folate? I need to double check that. That was low, and my white blood cells were low. And the thing is, all these bloods were taken in August, so I need to get bloods taken regularly for my heart. And they took my bloods back in August, and everything was fucking pictured. It was fucking perfect. Every blood test was taken, and it was perfect. Then they taken all these blood tests, and everything's went low as fuck. So the only thing I've done is I've bought these vitamin supplements. So I take vitamin D was low as well. So I take these drops. Let's see if I can get them for these. I don't know. I've got all sorts of stuff here. I take these drops, and I take my partner. Luckily, she's a dentist, and she owns a clinic in Edinburgh, and she gets B12. So I've been taking B12 injections as well to give. B12 is so crucial with this condition as well. B12 will help a lot of people. That's kind of helped me with the B12, and I take these black seed oil tablets as well. But this has only been the last 2 or 3 weeks that I've started to see a small improvement. I'm actually surprised I can talk to you now the way I am. I feel very lightheaded as it is just now. But my day-to-day life now is lying in my bed. And I used to go to the gym and all that. I was very, very fit and all that. But I can guarantee you, the footballers, the thing is with me, I was self-conscious in my heart because I had a heart attack before. These young footballers, they'll just think the heart elevated. They'll have an adrenaline rush before they go into the football pitch. My heart's thumping. They'll just think that's just the adrenaline pumping, But their physio could sit in the changing room and lie them down, take their heart rate, sit them down, take their heart rate, and take their heart rate as standing. If their heart rate shoots through the roof, there's a fucking problem, But this is honestly, I can't. It's been the worst. Every day, I'm crying to my mother and my partner. It's horrible. It's the worst thing I've ever done, honestly. Worst thing. And I never wanted that fucking booster jag. The only reason we got it is because we were meant to be going to South Africa. My partner has got family in South Africa, and she thought because we need to travel, we'll have to get the booster jag or whatever. And I was sitting there, and before I was getting, and you're sitting in front of a nurse who's going to jag you it. And I said to her, I don't want this. And she's like, how? And I was like, I've had a heart attack, and I'm a bit worried. Do you know what she turns? They say things to you, and I'm like, why the fuck are you saying that? She said to me, I know people that didn't get the booster jag or didn't get their vaccine and didn't believe in COVID, and they caught COVID, then they died. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm just like, oh well, fuck it, give me the jag, the booster jag then. But but this is totally floored me as a human being now.
John, do you feel it's hard to, do you find it's harder to speak out about this because you feel people are going to label you as an anti-vaxxer and things like that?
If I was an anti-vaxxer, I wouldn't have fucking got the thing, would I?
Yeah.
If I was an anti-vaxxer, I didn't. All these things going about, podcasts and all that, and I was like, nah, like, sure, the government, they roll out these things if there was an issue, and I was just like, aye, fuck it. But no, I'm not. People can say what they want. If you want to say I'm an anti-vaxxer, fucking crack on. I'm fucking.
Yeah.
You're getting up and walking about all day. I'm lying in my fucking bed, not being able to fucking live life. So you can say what you want. I'm fucking living proof that these things happen, and fucking see when it goes wrong, it goes fucking wrong, and it's fucking terrible, man.
John, honestly, our thoughts are with you at this moment in time, mate. And hopefully, as time goes on, they get to the point where they can help you, and you can get back to living your life, because it's awful, and it's quite clear you're not an anti-vaxxer. When you reached out, you told us that. You just said, this is where I'm at. This is the position, and I want to talk about it, and that's why I said, get yourself on our channel, and you've just timed it right with us starting this new program. And I think it's important that people hear about it. It raises awareness for POTS, but it raises awareness.
That's all I want to do. I just want to let people be aware, because when you're going to A&E and you're going to the doctors so many times, now I ended up, they used my mental health against me so many times that I ended up actually going to the mental health team, a mental health hospital, and told them to fucking analyse me. I says, fucking analyse me, because they're telling me I'm my mental health, this is all in my fucking head, and the mental health team assessed me and men like that. His mental health's affected by what's going on. And like I say, this isn't me being here saying anti-vaccine. People, get the vaccine if you want, but let people know there's a fucking risk. The risk is this, and is there a cure for this POTS? I don't know. I've got a new medication I've got to start called fluorocortisone or something like that. And that's supposedly going to help with the blood circulation, but it might increase my blood pressure, which I'm a bit worried about. So I haven't started that yet. But there's other people I've seen, and what they say is after 2-3 months, that hopefully this Pfizer gets out my system, and I just die, and hopefully I can get back to being normal again. Do you know what I mean? And aye.
Well, John, look, keep your spirits up. I know it's easy for me to say that to somebody who can walk around and live my life. But
sorry for swearing.
No, don't worry about that.
It's just a common Glasgow, mate.
Don't worry about that. And listen, John, keep us up to date. And look, if you ever need to chat, mate, feel free to give us a ring. Just reach out, mate, because it can, it must be an awful situation you're going through. Please keep us up to date with your progress, mate, and we'll always have you back on a News of the World show to have a chat and just keep us up to date. But there's a lot of positive comments coming from the chat. John from QTech saying, just keep fighting, John. Hopefully soon you will get the right help and your life back. Yes, Mouse Charger says, yes, hope you can come on when you're better. Keep strong, John, says positive vibes. So a lot of positivity there for you, John. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story, mate.
No problem, mate. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Chin up, mate.
Awful to hear that. And again, he's not an anti-vaxxer. He's not somebody who's saying don't get the vaccine. But what he's trying to say is, this is the position it's laid me up. And I mean, look, I never wavered about getting it. I got both jabs, and then I got the booster jab. And for me, the first jab I was fine. Second jab I was a little bit nauseous, and the booster jab, I've got to be honest, I was fine. Although my arm probably was hurting for about 6 or 7 weeks afterwards. I really could still feel where that injection was. Maybe it was because I had to have the flu jab at this roughly round about the same time. So I had the flu jab, and then I had the booster jab in quite quick succession. So my arm was quite stiff, but other than that, I was fine. And I had the Moderna. I had Moderna with me 2 jabs and with me booster jab. But my mindset really with a jab was, you just get it, because when I was younger, I had all the jabs. I had the BCG and all of that at school. I wasn't standing there as a school kid thinking what's getting put into my arm. I just got it taken. And does that make us an idiot? Because you just get it. Does it make me parents an idiot for allowing us to have something that's going to prevent rubella or measles or whatever? Look, at the end of the day, we're all in the same boat. Everybody who's took it. And my mindset was, if my life's mapped out, if my time's up, my time's up. And poor John from Jab, his time was up yesterday. It just shows you life's too short. Live your life to the full. Never be afraid. Never be afraid to to chase your dreams. And essentially, if you don't want to get the jab, don't get it. But I wasn't going to be in that gang. I wanted to get it. So, Patricia, what was your feeling on all of this?
I was the same as you, Steve. I got the jab. I got Pfizer. I'll be honest, when I got it, I was not well for 3 days. I burned a temperature of 41 degrees for 3 days solid. It just knocked me for 6. But then the second jab, I was fine. I was due to get my booster actually this month, but I got COVID at Christmas. And once again, I took that really bad. I was like bedridden for 3 days, but I got over it very quickly and I was fine. And I just would be of the same viewpoint. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. Don't make others feel bad for getting it. And because I think it's such a controversial topic. I'm nearly even scared to say I've got the vaccination. And I kind of try to see it from all viewpoints. When you hear a story like John's, quite obviously this happens. It does. John's proof. Do we need to talk about that more? Well, why not? John's living hell at the minute, and he should be allowed to, just have his say and tell people his story. And that's my viewpoint on it.
We've all got different metabolisms. That's the problem, isn't it? We've all got different metabolisms. Like,
I've just been sent, literally as we were speaking, then my friend, I've got loads more of this probably for next week because literally she's just sent it. Spoke to you about it last night, Steve. Key findings, this is Office for National Statistics. So key findings, we're talking about jabs for children here. 15 to 19-year-olds who had 1 dose have almost twice the death rate of the unvaccinated. 15 to 19-year-olds who had 2 doses have almost 3 times the death rate of unvaccinated. And the kids, 10 to 14, 1 dose is 10 times. Based on this, vaccinations for children should be halted. Like I said, I've got to look through this properly, but I've just been sent it now. But if that's true, the evidence is there. Just hold on a minute. You're doing people more harm. Look who we've just had on. There's living proof. You can be doing people more harm. And that's the thing with all this. They've rolled it out that quick. And I guess they had to. I'm not sat here slating them, but they had to do something if there was this big killer whilst Boris was doing that. So if there was a big killer, they had to do something. Albeit they did it later than other countries like Greece and whatnot. And we saw the effects of that. But if the evidence like this is now coming out and, John's just been sat there telling us, come on, people, we're playing with people's lives.
Yeah, look, it's something which it's a debate that's going to go on and on and on. And I think we all know how long it takes to bring a vaccine to the table. And I think we all know that what we're sticking in our arm is something which is essentially, it should really have taken 6 or 7 years. It didn't. It took months to come up with a vaccine. But they needed it because of the death rate, and the death rate was horrendous. And 150,000 plus people have lost their lives in the UK. It's been proven that getting the jab is actually helped. So that's my take on it. But unfortunately, there are people who've got a story like John who are in a position where their life is being probably altered forever in some way, shape, or form. And, John from QDEC, who's a big supporter of the show, he says it's a difficult decision for people to make. When I was in intensive care with COVID, I had to sign for experimental drugs and it was scary, but one saved my life. John really was off the scene for about 5 or 6 months. He's an active guy, somebody who looks after himself and not your stereotypical COVID victim that was painted at the start of the year, at the start of the whole process, big, fat, overweight, underlying health conditions.
We've had every category, haven't we? First it was the elderly, then it was the vulnerable, then it was the BAME community that were most at risk, and now it's the kids. And it just seems to me, again, I know there's something there, but I've died of flu in the UK in the last 2 years.
Exactly. I mean, this is, as you say, we'll probably continue this next week. Mouse Charger says, in fairness, I don't know what's in a lot of the food I eat, but I still eat it. Yes, a lot of people don't know what's in the drugs they stick up the nose. It'll be the same, but, or inhale or smoke or whatever. They still do it. That's another argument. It's the way it is. Listen, I think that's been a great show. We've slightly run over, but I think it was only right to do that, to let John have his full say. Cool. I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and it's a breath of fresh air. And thanks to everybody in the chat who contributed. Spread the word, please share the show, because for us, that's the way it gets heard. And did you enjoy it, Patricia? Good show. I
absolutely loved it. I loved the debate with you and Lee. I'm looking forward to the next one. And thank you to everybody who commented. I'm still kind of getting used to
I can't do it. I can't look at
them all, and they're all, thank you for being so supportive. Yes, thank you for being so supportive.
Yeah.
Hey, do you want to know? Listen, let's end on a positive.
Yeah.
McDonald's are doing a Big Mac chicken burger.
That's a
I know.
positive.
I like it. I like the chicken burgers out of McDonald's. I like that.
But they're doing a Big Mac now.
It's a Big Mac
we
chicken
don't know
burger.
Them.
Yeah.
Big Mac chicken burger, yeah. So listen, we're still hypocrites, aren't we? So I'll go and buy one. We don't know what's in them.
Where can people find you, Patricia, if they need to contact you? You're on Twitter only, aren't you?
Twitter at Trish Devlin. I also have a Facebook page. You can add me on there too.
Okay, good stuff. Lee, what about you, mate?
On Facebook as Lee Pablo, and then on Instagram as Lee Pablo 1980 new.
Great stuff. I just want to obviously dedicate this to John from Jab, big friend of mine, sadly missed, and never forget you, fella. Thanks for everything you did. We'll be back next week. Look forward to it. Take care, Patricia. Take care, Lee. See you then.
Bye.
Bye, dude. Bye. See you in a bit.